Well, drinking water across parts of Australia has been found to contain dangerous cancer-causing chemicals. The contaminants were found in every state across the country, with hotspots in New South Wales and Queensland. Joining us for more is Dr Marion Lloyd-Smith, live from Ballina. Dr Marion, thanks so much for your time this morning. This is pretty alarming. We're talking about tap water here. I mean, something we all consume every day. So just how dangerous are the chemicals currently allowed in our tap water?
They're a very nasty group of chemicals. There's about 14,000 PFAS chemicals, different ones for different uses. But what we know is they're linked to kidney and liver disease, dysregulation of our thyroid and insulin, reproductive problems, developmental problems in children, and of course, cancer. And the makers of these chemicals have had to pay out many millions of dollars in the US to people who have been exposed and have suffered cancer. Unbelievably, though, our regulatory agencies here in Australia just dismiss all of this evidence and say that there's no clear evidence that they cause disease, which honestly is beyond belief. So we are talking about a very nasty group, which are also bioaccumulative. They build up in our bodies. Women pass them on to their children. They're transboundary. They volatilize into the air and disappear into a different country that may never have used them. So they really are a horrible bunch.
I mean, Doc, hearing you talk about it in such a way is troubling in the sense that, I mean, how much do you actually have to consume it? Because you look around you right now, everyone seems to be okay currently consuming this water. What are we talking about here in terms of who it's affecting and how much you actually have to consume before it's impacting you?
We literally don't know that fact. And even though there's been so much work over the last 20 years on PFAS chemicals in assessment, both at UN level and in the US, we don't know exactly how much will cause disease. And the problem is, because they're bioaccumulative, every exposure just builds up a little bit more in your body. And so I can't say this amount will cause this disease. What we can say is the US regulatory authorities have said clearly that they do not think there is a safe level of exposure. And once a regulatory agency says that, you really alert, every alarm bell. Basically, what they're saying is you need to reduce your exposure to as close to zero as you possibly can. And we know how hard that is, but it is still something we need to do.
Sorry, just to get an understanding of what that actually means. I mean, are we talking about not drinking tap water because bottled water is bad for you as well? Are we talking about not having baths? I mean, where do you draw the line?
Well, unfortunately, water is only one aspect of our exposure. Our exposure also comes through food. It comes through all the personal products that PFAS are involved in and all the industrial products that we may use a day that are made with PFAS. So I know it sounds ridiculous to say how we can reduce our exposure to zero, but what we need to do is try. And what we also need to do is see a government that gets these chemicals out of the commercial world. There is no reason to have 14,000 of these highly toxic, highly persistent chemicals.
Yeah, all right, well, let's hope that. No, that's okay. Let's hope that review surely is underway because, as you said, it's happened in the US. It needs to happen here now. Marion, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
New revelations this morning. Tap water right across Australia has been found to contain toxic carcinogens. Let's go live to Federal Politics reporter Amanda Kopp. Amanda, good morning. Almost 1.8 million Australians have been impacted since 2010.
Yeah, that's right, Sarah. It's some pretty disturbing news out this morning. Tap water across parts of Sydney, Newcastle, Canberra, Victoria, Queensland and Rottnest Island have been found with chemicals that are likely to be carcinogenic, according to reports in the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. The chemicals in question are called PFAS or PFAS. They're used in things like non-stick frying pans and food packaging. They're also a very good fire retardant, so often the way that bigger amounts have ended up in our our water systems is because it's used in firefighting drills or defence training. However, US authorities say there's no safe level of exposure, and Australians are more at risk of being exposed because these chemicals are allowed in Australian drinking water at 140 times the level that's allowed in America. There are now calls for there to be widespread water testing across Australia, and we'll have to see whether our politicians respond. Sarah?
Amanda, thank you.